Hi, I'm Tammy. The purpose of the Tammy North Show is to give high achievers actionable content to propel themselves to senior leadership while living a balanced life. Women leading within corporations and government organizations who want to perform with authenticity at the senior executive level have found their community. Today, we're going to talk about the one thing that you could change to completely transform your ability to accomplish your goals. If you have a big or an important goal that you want to achieve, then today's episode is going to make a huge difference in the way that you go about making that happen. This is the difference between a life plan that is mainly dependent on winning the lottery, for instance, sitting around waiting for fortune to rain down upon you, or taking that dream that's always been in your head and going after it with all you have to make it real. One of those two options, either the lottery or going after it yourself, one of those two is about 99% in your control. I know that things do sometimes go wrong, but even when things go wrong, then you have reactions to those things that are then again within your control. I don't know about you, but I figured out that when I'm actively taking steps to achieve any of my goals, the more active steps I take, the more often I succeed. This isn't to say that I don't have help from people or that I haven't had luck in my life or that my creator hasn't bestowed talent, wisdom, and other gifts on me. I understand that I have God-given gifts, that things have worked out in my favor in many cases, and I have had a lucky life to say that there haven't been a bunch of huge tragedies that have happened. So I fully understand that. But even in the situations, I talked about Dr. Frankl's book before, Man's Search for Meaning, and he found himself in a concentration camp, in fact, several concentration camps during World War II in Nazi Germany, including Auschwitz was one of the camps he was at. And if you read that book, that's kind of the whole premise of his book, is that no matter the circumstance you find yourself in, you then have the decision to create and have the attitude or whatever you want to have there are things you can do in every single moment, even in moments that he found himself in order to make your life better. I do believe that you have incredibly powerful talents. You have intelligence. You have gifts in your own life that were entrusted to you, only to you. And you feel some pull. There's some drive that you sense, that you think you could use those powers in a certain way in order to achieve something. There's something in your brain that you think you want to do with your talents. You have that idea that will make the world a better place and would make you so happy to wake up every morning. And if you could do that thing, you would jump out of bed and you would get to work making things happen every single day, even on the days when it's hard. The only way that you can use that superpower, your superpower mix, in order to make the impact that you have been dreaming of, is to step out of the shadows and step out of the safety and to let your life shine. I know what I'm saying is not as simple as it sounds. Trust me, even in the success that I've had over my life, it has not been simple. Even when I got to be more senior in my organization, there were times that were definitely not simple. And there were times where I thought I was failing. And there were times I thought it was hard. And there were times I was out of my comfort zone. And so I know it's not simple. And on top of that, I'm a proudly introverted woman. And I grew up in a very small town. And it kind of took me till about the age of, 35, 40 before I realized that what I'm talking about in this podcast was the secret. And it actually gets to the very heart of why I started this podcast in the first place. Because this point that I'm at in my life now, there is so much that I've learned. And I wish I could go back and tell my 18-year-old or 25-year-old or my 35-year-old self to spend more time getting out of my comfort zone. I wish I could go back and tell myself that committing to some very bold actions occasionally, you don't even have to do it all the time. Just put some bold actions in there across, every so often, that when you do those bold actions, it makes all the difference. And when I look back over my earlier years, I did do some bold things, and those bold things definitely did improve my life. They were bold things that other people were afraid to do, and I made the decision to do them. And as a result, it did put me on a different path. But for years and years, even when I took those bold actions, I took a lot of them in very safe ways. So let me talk about some of those. Like, for instance, I enlisted in the Navy when I was 19, but I did that along with one of my best friends from high school. So it's not like I got brave and just went and talked to the recruiter. No, one of my best friends went and talked to the recruiter, and she said, "Why don't you come talk to the recruiter too?" So I did. So to me, I was with my best friend. We were going to go to the Navy together. And another thing, after I graduated my first A school, I accepted 3-year orders to go to the Azores, which is kind of an archipelago of islands out in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean off the coast of Portugal. And that seemed kind of scary, going to the Azores as my first duty station. But why did I accept those orders? Because first, they were going to send me for 5 months to a school very near where my parents were. So I was going to get to go spend 5 months with my parents again while I was still in the Navy, and then go to the Azores. Going to the Azores was kind of bold, and it was one of the most amazing experiences. That duty station was incredible. If anybody ever wants to talk to me about the Azores, I would love, or is anybody listening from the Azores? That would be amazing. That place was one of the most beautiful experiences with the nicest people I ever met in my entire life. Okay, so another thing, I eventually finished my bachelor's degree in the Navy, and I applied for an officer program. And I could have applied to an officer program sooner. They have all types of programs, but I didn't. So finally, I waited till my bachelor's degree was done, and that's when I applied for an officer program. But I did that with 2 other friends who were working on their packages too. So we all helped each other. It was kind of cool. But I didn't just get bold on my own and say, I'm applying to be an officer. I kind of did it safe. I did it, so you can see I did some bold things, but they were all kind of safe. And I became an officer around the time I was 30. So those were some active steps that I took that ended up leading to a great overall career. But it's my opinion that I was timid taking some of those bold steps, and as I explained. So I basically waited until it was as safe as possible to take some leaps. But when I took those leaps, they made a big difference. And the thing is, when you wait for complete safety and when you wait for the perfect opportunity, it's a really big time killer. So if I could go back and change some things, I wouldn't have waited till it was so safe. I would have been trying sooner. There would have been some things I'd have been doing much earlier, and I probably would have speeded up things by 5 years. Or maybe things happened just the way they were supposed to. But the reason I did things I did at the times I did them was because I felt like, okay, this is very nice. This is safe. This is what I'm going to do them. But knowing everything I know now, and when I look back, I realize I passed up on some other bold opportunities I could have taken. Some bold opportunities that could have changed anything. I mean, I can think of some goofy things that maybe are goofy. I wanted to be a famous country music singer. I wanted to do that very bad when I was young. And then when American Idol was probably in like its 3rd or 4th season, I was in San Diego, California. The auditions were in Los Angeles. And one day I decided I was going to go audition for American Idol. But this is after I was already a naval officer. And something happened with one of my people that day. And so I ended up going to work instead of going to Los Angeles. And I remember thinking that somebody else could take care of that person. And everybody knew I was going to be on leave, and everybody knew I was going to go audition for American Idol. And even though somebody else could have taken care of the person that was having an issue, they weren't hurt. It was some other, I think, disciplinary kind of thing. I'm like, oh no, I'm in charge. I have to go help take care of that person. So I skipped going to American Idol audition and I went to work. And so I'm not saying I would have been successful at auditioning. Again, probably things worked out exactly the way they were supposed to. But the career I'm on now and the success I've had now is because I passed up other opportunities that may or may not have worked, but I definitely put my energy into this career. And this is a career that is succeeding, if that makes sense. And there's a lot of other bold things I could have done, even in the Navy, that would have led to different levels of success or different paths that could have been successful. So, maybe they would have been fun. Maybe they would have taken me to different locations, and who knows what that changes in life. But I did life the way I did it. And also when I was young, I would say under the age of 30, I spent so much time watching TV. I was a single mom back then, but I remember I spent so much time watching TV, playing computer games, talking on the phone for hours, and worrying about, the wrong people to love. And even sometimes at work, my time was wasted. Doing busy work, I didn't always focus on the most important thing back then. I focused on small stuff. And I just think back to those first 10 years I was in the Navy, the time between when I was enlisted to when I first applied to officer program. in that little period of time, I could have done so much more. I could have, had a much more productive time. But I did get my bachelor's degree, but I just think about it back. I think back to that time and how much time I could have done other things. But I raised my daughter and got a bachelor's degree in that period of time. So, overall it was fine. I just think the things I could have done. Life is life. I just think sometimes all of that was time I could have used on something wonderful, something that would have made a bigger impact than the impact I did make. One thing I did figure out as time went on is that taking more initiative, which often required bold actions, led to dramatic change in how I was perceived. So often people just sit around and notice things are wrong or say things are wrong. They even talk about them. There could be 4 people sitting in a space just complaining about how everything is wrong. But what if you took the bold action to say, that is wrong? I wonder how we fix it. And then you literally start calling people and getting people together in a meeting and just taking the action to quit complaining about it and actually try to do something about it instead. When you become that person, try it this week. Listen to everybody complain about something. Stop what you're doing. Get everybody together and say, let's solve this instead, and start getting people from whichever organization needs to help you solve it. Get them on the phone. See if you can set up a meeting. Take some bold actions and try to make a difference. I became an action taker, an executor, and somebody who could be counted on to get past challenges in the road and make things happen. And this happened kind of exponentially over time. Like at first I took a couple bold actions and they worked. And then I was like, well, if I could do that, maybe I could do this. And so then the bolder actions I took, the more success I had. And then the more confidence I had to take even further bold actions. So it kind of built on itself over time. And the same thing will happen to you if you see the way and find at least enough confidence to take that first bold step. So that's what this whole podcast is about. What I'm talking about here is the difference between passively failing at your goal or actively failing at your goal. Passively failing is essentially failing before you even start. Passively failing is knowing that you have a goal or an aspiration that you want to make a reality, and then you do absolutely nothing else to achieve it. So let's say back on January 1st, 2021, you wrote down the goal that you want to lose 15 pounds, or maybe you want to pay off your debt. You want to get a promotion at work. You want to improve your relationship with your husband. You want to organize your home. You want to start a business. Whatever your goal was. You said something. So let's give an example of passively failing at those goals. And even if you wrote it down, some people will still passively fail. Basically, you could write it down and then days and weeks pass. And then as that happens, another week, here we are, it's March, so what actions are you taking? If you're going to passively fail, you never schedule any time on your calendar to make progress toward your goal. You might work on it sometimes because you think, I really do want to lose 15 pounds. So occasionally you do a little cardio, maybe you lift a couple weights, but you only do it when you have absolutely nothing else to do, not even a Netflix series to binge. You might think about your dream, but you allow yourself to churn and overwhelm. You get very overwhelmed and confused about where to start. It seems so daunting, so you don't do anything. Or let's say you do something. Maybe you send out one social media post about your new business and then you only get 2 likes. So you think, well, that was a waste, and you never do it again. And the more overwhelmed you get, the more overwhelmed you get, the more the excitement about the idea starts to fade and you start to lose motivation. And then, you basically start to not even care if you ever achieve the goal. Maybe you even start to believe that you weren't meant for this goal. As you see other people achieve it and you see them and you think to yourself that you're not as good as they are, and that maybe you should just stay in your quiet, safe place where you won't get hurt and where you're already good at all the things you already know how to do, everything you've already been doing in the past. You don't need to go do something new. That's passively failing. Actively failing is much different. Yes, you're still going to fail when you're actively failing, but the difference is you'll not only fail, but you will learn. And then you're going to figure out what could have been different or better, and then you're going to try again, but you're going to do it with a better result. And even if you don't succeed the second time, you're going to learn something else. And then you're going to figure out what went wrong, and you're going to try again. And eventually, if you really want it, and if you don't stop, you will achieve your goal. It's really just that simple. Happens all the time. Okay, so here's your activity for this week. I want you to try this. It's just 3 steps. 3 steps to make more progress than you've made in a long time on your goal. First, I want you to write down your primary biggest goal, whatever your goal is, whatever the thing you most want to make progress toward. Write this down right now. Just write it down. I don't care where you are. If you have a whiteboard, you have a sticky, you have a crayon, have some finger in the dirt. I don't care. Write down your biggest goal. Okay. I want you to make a plan now to actively fail your way to success. So the second action is that I want you to write down, just brainstorm a list of 10 different actions. And remember, actions have verbs. Write down 10 different actions that you know would move you closer to your goal. So write down, I will lift weights 3 times a week for at least 20 minutes until I reach my goal. That would be an action. What else could you do? If you're trying to organize your house, maybe you write down, I will clean out 1 room of the house every weekend. I mean, these are just action ideas that you could write down, but write down 10 different actions that you could do. Okay, then the third step is to estimate the time that each one of these actions you wrote down 10 actions. So about how long do you think they're going to take? Some might be just calling somebody. So that could be 5 minutes or 30 minutes. Some of them might be an hour long, maybe you have to write something or create something, but some might take all day, like if you're going to clean out a room, whatever, it doesn't matter. Whatever your actions are that you wrote down, they're going to get you toward your goal. Estimate the amount of time that they will take. And then once you have that estimate complete, go to your calendar and write down every one of these actions somewhere on your calendar where you know you have time to do them, sometime in the near future. Write down all 10, let's say, in the next 8 weeks or less. If they're small, make them in the next couple weeks. Once you have them in your calendar, then I want you to make a serious commitment to yourself that you will do the action when the calendar says you will. And then go about completing them. Wherever you schedule them on your calendar, when the time comes, complete your action. And when you get kind of close to completing them, when you're about on the 8th or 9th, then make 10 more actions and calendar them in the same way and then get them all done. This sounds simple, but how many of you do this when you make a goal? If you do this, you will achieve your goal. Let's see. I'm going to give you a really good example. If your goal is to find a new job or a position, a new job or a new career position, then some actions might be 1, clearly decide what type of position you're looking for. So in order to do that, you might need to schedule some deep work time, like 30 minutes or an hour to brainstorm about what you really want and what you really don't want. And so that you can get really clear on the type of position you really want to work at. Not just one you would want to settle for, but one that you really would love to be at. And then a second action could be updating your resume or your portfolio to find this new position. The third one could be identifying gaps. Like once you know the kind of position you want and you've updated your resume, you might think, oh, I have some gaps. It would be better if I took a course. Is there an agile course I can take? Is there a data science class I can take? Something like that if you feel like you might need to fill in some gaps. And then a fourth action could be reach out to mentors and other people in your network to discuss opportunities that might be available. And then the fifth action, in fact, I'm going to say like the next 5 to 10 to 15 actions could just be applying for multiple positions. Every application is a different action because you're probably going to have to tailor the resume a little. So apply to 5 or 10 or 15 positions. And this action includes applying, interviewing, failing, getting feedback. Applying, interviewing, failing, getting feedback. And you do that until it works. Passively failing at this goal would be to know you want to leave, to know there's someplace, some better job that you have been dreaming of, but yet you just stay in the same job and you're somewhat miserable for 10 plus years. That's how you passively fail. Now, you heard what I said about interviewing, failing, getting feedback, applying, interviewing, failing, getting feedback. That whole thing right there, trust me, that will not be comfortable. It will not be comfortable at all. It will be stressful. It might be scary. Sometimes it might be embarrassing. I don't know. You're going to have all those kind of feelings. But the good news is that all of those things are just feelings and you'll live right through it. You'll be okay. Feelings come and go. They pass like waves. And when the feeling passes, you'll still be here. only you'll be a little bit smarter, a little bit wiser, and you'll know a lot more about what your next step should be. You'll probably have cleared away some of your confusion and doubt about what needs to happen next. You will have grown. You will have become stronger, and next time you'll be better. This is the way. Did you hear about a job opportunity that you definitely 100% do want? If you're afraid to apply and then you decide that you probably wouldn't get chosen anyway, so you close the announcement and you just turn on Netflix, you have just failed. Passively, but you have just failed. You failed and you did absolutely nothing. You just told yourself no. Nobody else even got a chance to tell you no. You told yourself no before you even started. If you don't believe in yourself, why will anybody else believe in you? You have to put yourself into the game before you can play the game. You have to sign up to be on the team before somebody puts you on the field. You have to be on the field before you have a chance to score the winning point. And you have to score some points before you become the MVP. All of this becomes possible when you take very active steps, learn, get out of your comfort zone, grow, and then never quit. It reminds me of a sign on the wall of my daughter's dojo when she took karate in her younger years. It was just a simple sign, I think it was printed out on a computer piece of paper, but it was hanging there on the wall. And the quote was this: "A black belt is a white belt who didn't quit." So think about karate class or any number of martial arts. When you think about a white belt class, they're the people, maybe they're kids, maybe they're adults, it doesn't matter. They are learning very basic moves. And then there's more senior belts, maybe blue belts, whatever, brown belts, roaming the class, correcting stances. They're correcting arm positions. They're making sure feet are pointed in the right direction. They're doing all of these things. And so then the white belt, they finally have the time comes where this is test day and they all have an opportunity to test to advance to the next belt. But very often they don't advance on the first test. They get feedback and then they have to go practice some more and then they try again. And yeah, it does stink when they don't get promoted. It's a sad day when they have a chance and they try really hard, but they are told they need to go back and do more work. But that's what drives excellence. When they do the work, eventually they do pass and they do move up to the next belt. And any goal you have will happen in just this way. But you have to be willing to get into the arena, to take the active steps, to get uncomfortable, and to be okay with feeling a little bit embarrassed or out of your comfort zone. It's the only way you will grow. If you stay safe and you choose to passively fail, you'll never know what you are truly capable of. Passively failing is where the seeds of lifelong regret take root. Don't allow the regret of a life that could have been lived overcome your life. I'm 100% sure that you are capable of more than you ever imagined. It just takes that one decision to take action. When you decide that you will never fail before you start again, and you begin taking a very active role in achieving your dreams, you will amaze yourself. Make this commitment to yourself right now and take the 3 actions in this podcast, and then email me at tammy.north@genuinedrivenwomen.com and tell me what your results are. I would love to hear about them. You can connect with us on Facebook at Genuine Driven Women, or to learn more about what we offer, check out genuinedrivenwomen.com.